I think there's a little bit of both here, and it's going to take us some time to kind of sort through, some of the factors at play. It absolutely is the case that, Tesla's kind of fighting with one hand tied behind its back when you are changing over, all of your plants that make your most important vehicle. You're going to have some trouble with lost production and tighter inventory, and so certainly that's coming into play early this year. They have a changeover for the Model Y, but I think what's really going to be interesting as the year progresses is just how much does Tesla take it on the chin as Musk becomes all the more polarizing over here in Europe. He's really asserted himself in political conversations to an incredible degree.
Well, that's what we want to dig into. But I want to get into, first of all, the CFO did warn about these assembly line changeovers, that it would happen. How much of the slump that we're seeing in sales can be attributed to that? And then we can also kind of get into how much is folks pushing back on Elon Musk.
Yeah, I think that's part of the challenge is we don't have a lot of particulars from the CFO. He just said, all the plants will change over. That'll cost us some weeks of production. He didn't, specify, schedules. The company is pretty tight-lipped about those sorts of details. And I should say, that's not uncommon in the industry, right? You do have this happen where car makers, go from one design to another, and it results in some disruption in manufacturing. But for the company, they've only, offered a little bit of detail, just that every plant that makes the Model Y, which is four across the world, they make that vehicle in China, in Germany, and in a couple plants in the U.S. And so, that absolutely is coming into play here. I think, the question, of course, is, just how much brand damage, again, may be occurring here because of Musk.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because you brought numbers to your story about how people in different parts of the world view Elon Musk. Certainly here in the United States, anecdotally speaking, I've seen the stickers that say anti-Elon Tesla Club, and we've talked about those folks who are, sort of associating him with the brand, but not totally associating him with the brand and still have the car. How is he looked at in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Germany, he just very emphatically supported the AfD, right? The far right party in Germany that we should say, placed second in Sunday's election. But that is a hugely controversial party, even, among Germans, despite that support. That support was still in the 20s, right, in terms of percentages. And a lot of people sort of view that party as sort of, if not Nazi outright, Nazi sympathetic, or sort of flirting with that. Over here in the UK, Tesla has, praised the Labour government for some of its, sort of more forward-thinking policies and efforts to, encourage EV adoption. But Musk, meanwhile, is really going after Keir Starmer and some of the folks in his administration and really just out there ways. And so, the way that Musk has asserted himself has really turned a lot of heads over here. And I think, to the extent that Trump is unpopular over here, of course, Musk has aligned himself with Trump in pretty dramatic fashion.